The envelope arrived on a Thursday. No name. No return address. Just a crude stamp smeared across the top left corner, Cellblock 9. Talia Owens, a local journalist known more for her community event coverage than investigative work, found the letter waiting on her desk like a quiet challenge. It was folded once, neatly. No threats, no wild claims. Just 5 words, handwritten in black ink. He didn't do it. Please. She stared at it, confused. There was no context. No signature. No explanation. Just that line, and a second sheet of paper, torn along the edge like it had been ripped from a worn composition notebook. It was the start of something. Something that smelled like trouble. It read, "I wake up every day knowing I'm dying in a place built to erase men like me. They call me 823091. But I used to be Jameson Tate. The man you all said killed Elise Montgomery. I didn't. This is the only way I can speak the truth." Talia's hands trembled slightly as she read it. Jameson Tate. That name rang heavy in the town of Fairhope. A case that once flooded headlines. A high school art teacher, convicted of killing a 17-year-old student in a quiet Alabama town that still whispered her name like a ghost. Elise Montgomery had vanished after school one rainy afternoon in 2010. Her body was found 3 days later in the woods behind an abandoned barn. Jameson had been the last known person to see her alive. The evidence was circumstantial, thin even, but the town had wanted blood. And they got it. Jameson was sentenced to life without parole. And then, silence. Until now. Fairhope wasn't the kind of town that changed much. The diner still served peach pie on Thursdays. Church signs still warned of eternal fire and free car washes. But beneath the Sunday smiles and picket fences was a stubborn truth. People liked their villains simple and their justice swift. Back in 2010, they had found both in Jameson Tate. He was a quiet man. Kind. Respected by students. Lived alone. No criminal record. But when Elise's body was found with defensive wounds and traces of linseed oil, common in painting studios, it didn't take long for fingers to point. His trial had been a local circus. The prosecution painted him as a secret predator. The defense struggled to present anything more than character witnesses. And Jameson? He barely spoke. Sat still. Hollow. Like the trial was already lost before it began. Now, 15 years later, a letter shows up on a journalist's desk saying the justice system got it wrong. Talia had questions. Why now? Who was helping him? Was this a plea for attention, or something more? She reread the page, her eyes snagging on one cryptic sentence. I couldn't say it in court. If I had, they'd have killed someone else too. Someone else? That night, she couldn't sleep. Talia wasn't an investigator. But she had instincts. And instincts told her that someone locked away for 15 years, someone with no access to phones or emails, was risking everything to get these words out. She went to see Jameson. Birmingham Correctional Facility. Cellblock 9. A gray hell with barbed wire halos and fluorescent buzzes in the air. He looked older than she remembered from the articles. His once dark hair grayed at the edges. A scar down his cheek that hadn't been there before. But his eyes, those stayed the same. Clear. Calm. Too calm. She introduced herself, sliding the letter across the thick plastic barrier. He didn't even read it. I knew it got to you, he said softly. I picked you. Why me? Because you don't scare easy, he said. And you weren't here when they buried the truth. Talia leaned in. Jameson, she asked, what truth? He looked around. Then he whispered. I saw who did it. The second letter came 2 days later. This one was longer. Clearer. Still fragmented, like he was trying not to say too much at once. Elise was scared the week she died. She stayed after class and cried when everyone else had left. I asked her what was wrong. She said someone was following her. A man in a red hoodie. She never said his name. Just that he used to be close. That night, she told me she was going to confront him. She said, "He thinks I'm weak. I'm not." I never saw her again. Talia cross-referenced the trial transcript. Nowhere was this detail mentioned. Not once. No red hoodie. No mention of Elise being scared. Had he told his public defender and been ignored? Or had he stayed silent? She went back to the files. Elise's best friend, Cara Dean, had testified that Elise had been normal the week of her disappearance. But in a 2010 social media post, one Talia dug up on a cached archive, Cara had posted something of the night Elise vanished. Some people are too brave for their own good. By the third visit, Jameson was opening up more. "She was just a kid," he murmured. "I should have stopped her." "Why didn't you tell the court?" Talia asked again. Jameson swallowed. Then he leaned in. "Because I knew who she was talking about. And I knew what would happen if I said his name." "Who?" He didn't answer. But he looked down at his hands. They were shaking. That night, another letter arrived. He was part of something bigger. His uncle wore a badge. His father owned half the town. If I had said his name, they would have buried me faster, and maybe taken someone else too. Elise knew what she was walking into. I think she thought her truth could win. The implications hit Talia hard. This wasn't just a killer with a red hoodie. This was someone protected. Fairhope had long been held together by family names. Old names. Names with power. One of those was Ronan Keller, former sheriff, retired now, but still treated like royalty at every town hall meeting. Ronan had a nephew. A troubled teen once pulled out of high school for mental health reasons, and quietly shipped off to a private boarding school in Georgia. His name? Caleb Keller. Talia had never seen his name in the trial transcripts. Not once. But she found a senior yearbook from 2009, and there he was, standing 2 rows behind Elise Montgomery in a class photo, wearing a red hoodie. The hoodie. She called Cara Dean. Elise's old best friend. Now a nurse in Montgomery. It took some convincing, but eventually Cara met her at a roadside cafe. "I don't want trouble," Cara said as soon as she sat down. "You knew something," Talia said quietly. "Back then. The night Elise died, you posted something. About bravery." Cara stared at her coffee. "Elise told me she was going to confront Caleb," she whispered. "Said he'd been following her. That he said horrible things. Called her a liar. Did you tell anyone?" Cara shook her head. "What was I supposed to say? His uncle was the sheriff. His family had a lawyer in every county office." Talia's blood chilled. The pieces were forming a shape. A protected boy. A frightened girl. A silent town. And a man rotting in a cage for a crime he didn't commit. Back in Cellblock 9, Jameson had found an unlikely lifeline. Correctional officer Wes Granger wasn't known for kindness, but something about Jameson's quiet dignity had moved him. Wes had a son the same age Jameson was when he was convicted. He also had a conscience. "I can't say I believe everyone in here is innocent," he told Jameson one night. "But I know evil when I see it. And you ain't it." Wes had been secretly mailing the letters for Jameson. Using his cousin's P.O. box in Atlanta and rerouting the envelopes back to Talia's desk. It was risky. Dangerous. But Wes knew something was wrong with how Jameson had landed here. He remembered the case. Remembered how fast it had all gone down. And he remembered who the sheriff's nephew used to run with. "Those boys thought they were untouchable," he told Jameson. And maybe they were. Jameson handed him the next letter. He looked Wes dead in the eyes. "This one," he said, "might get someone killed." The letter was the longest one yet. 5 pages. Coded. Fragmented. But woven with enough truth to shake Talia to the bone. She showed up at the art room that evening. Said he'd threatened to expose something. That he had photos. She said if she didn't meet him, He'd ruin her. I told her not to go. But Elise was the bravest person I ever knew. She said, "No more hiding." I watched her walk into the rain. I followed. I stayed far behind. I saw the red hoodie. I saw the shove. I saw the struggle. I saw the rock in his hand. I saw her fall. And then he looked up. He saw me. Talia couldn't breathe. I ran. I ran like I was the one who did it. I thought about calling the police. But then the news broke. Elise was dead. And they had already decided it was me. So I shut my mouth. Because his uncle was the sheriff. And the last time I told the truth, it cost someone everything. This wasn't a confession. It was a man bleeding on the page. Talia tried to track Caleb down. No social media. No recent records in Alabama. But a tip from a retired school administrator led her to a small town outside Savannah, Georgia, where a man named Caleb K. had been fired from a community college just 2 years earlier after a harassment complaint. The college wouldn't confirm details, but Talia found a police report from the same month. The victim had declined to press charges. The case was quietly closed. She drove 6 hours to Savannah. There, she found a rundown duplex with a red mailbox. And in the front yard, a man in his early 30s with hollow eyes, chain smoking beneath a dying oak tree. Caleb Keller. She snapped a photo. And then she left. She didn't confront him. Not yet. Instead, she took the photo to Cara Dean. "Is this the man Elise was afraid of?" Cara nodded slowly. "That's him." Talia had enough for a story. But this wasn't about headlines. This was about getting Jameson out. The final letter arrived in a torn manila envelope. Inside was a confession. Not Jameson's, Caleb's. A confession Jameson claimed he had secretly recorded onto a cassette tape and mailed to himself through an art program mailer during trial prep. It was dismissed as junk mail and never opened. The tape was destroyed during a routine cell search in 2011. But Jameson had copied the transcript. "She said she'd ruin me. Said she had the proof. I didn't mean to." She kept screaming. "I lost it. I hit her. Then I kept hitting." It wasn't signed. But it ended with the words, "No one will believe you. My uncle's the sheriff." Wes Granger, the guard, confirmed the handwriting. It matched a letter Caleb had sent to another inmate years earlier. One that had quietly circulated behind bars. Now Talia had it. Now, the world would see. The story hit local papers first. Then regional. Then national. By the time Caleb Keller was arrested for questioning, he had already fled. His car was found outside Baton Rouge, abandoned. But the damage was done. The governor's office called for a full review of the Tate case. Within 6 weeks, Jameson Tate's conviction was vacated. 15 years. Gone. When he stepped out of prison, he was met with cameras, signs, and strangers sobbing into microphones. But he didn't smile. Not once. "I'm not free," he said quietly. "Elise is still dead. And I still saw it happen." Talia stood in the back, recording. She'd published the story under the headline, "Letters from Cellblock 9, the truth he couldn't say in court." And in her pocket was the final letter Jameson had sent her before the release. "Thank you. But don't let this town forget her. Don't let them remember me more than they remember Elise." She never did. If you enjoyed this episode of Chase Studio Stories, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Your support helps us continue to share impactful and meaningful content.